Grab your drinks and have a seat. It's time for serial killers.
Hello.
Hello.
We are here.
Another week, another serial killer.
It's true. It's true. So we'll get right into it. I'm T.
And I'm Jay.
And we are here to tell
talk
you about
serial
killers. I don't even try anymore. If you've been listening for a while, you know that Jay will never, ever, ever say things simultaneously with me. So I'm just not going to do it.
I don't know. Your birthday's coming up, so maybe I'll do it then.
Yeah, I don't want you to. I think it's it's run its course. So I'm not even going to try to say it with you. I'm just going to say it,
and then shock you.
You can say it your way too, and that's fine, because that's what we're here for, is to tell you about the serial killers. That's all we focus on. So if you are thinking you're listening to something other than that,
wrong.
Not it. Not it at all. And we don't talk about anything but serial killers.
And what we're drinking. And
what we're drinking.
Some banter sometimes. But it's about serial killers.
It is about serial killers. So if you're new here, welcome. I hope you enjoy this episode. And I mean this wholeheartedly. If you're just joining the Fatal Blend group of people, you are more than welcome to go back to like the earlier episodes, episode 150, whatever.
The rough days.
But don't expect it to be like this. It definitely has changed over the last...
We have evolved.
Yeah, I mean, we're on episode 108. So we're 108 episodes in. And I would definitely say that the first half of our episodes, they're not rough. Like, to be fair, they're not rough. But I think I've mellowed out a little bit from the beginning. Jay has gotten more vocal than he was in the beginning.
Yeah, less 4-letter words from you.
It's true.
Sure.
In the beginning when I started this, I was very much like, fuck all the serial killers. But I've started to realize that that's just, I mean, I feel that way. But I don't think I need to like go out there and be all crazy about it.
So we're at 108?
We're at 108 episodes.
So there's 53 weeks in a year?
52.
52 weeks in a year?
Yep.
So we've passed 2 years, which was 104.
Okay. Sure. Yeah.
Sheesh. So yeah, lots have changed.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah, if you are just joining, you can go back to some of those earlier episodes and listen to the intro. It's different.
Yeah, it is different. It is. I like our intro now, though, so I don't think we'll be changing that. We actually changed our intro for our 1-year anniversary. So but we've changed how we do things now. We don't celebrate the year. We celebrate episodes. So every 50 episodes, we'll be doing like a recap of our favorites and our least favorite. Well, we did it for 100.
But it'll be
a episode.
Like at 150, we'll do between 100 and 149.
Yeah, we'll go back to the last 50 episodes and be like, oh, which ones were our favorite? So, but that's not what we're doing today. We're definitely not talking about that. But first, we're going to talk about what we're drinking, because we are always drinking something. And it started out with us always drinking coffee. The problem is we don't drink. I mean, I drink coffee, but my old age is making it to where I can only drink coffee in the morning. And we don't typically record a lot of our podcasts in the morning. Sometimes we do. Sometimes we don't. And so it's gotten to a point now where we just kind of tell you what we're drinking, because we always have some sort of a drink with us at all times. So Jay, what are you drinking today?
So because we're halfway through the day, I've already had my 2 coffees this morning. So with my old age, I need to back that up with some H2O. So I'm drinking some purified water, but I have some Crystal Light in it of the wild strawberry flavor, because if you've listened to the podcast before, I'm not a big fan of the flavor of water, so I have to spice it up a little bit.
He adds a little bit. That's true. And I despise that. If I'm going to drink water, I'm just going to drink water. What I am drinking right now is my second cup of coffee for today. It is the sweet caramel Nespresso pod. And I did coconut cream creamer in it. No stevia because those ones are a little sweeter. I don't need the extra stevia. And so that is what I'm drinking while we do our podcast.
And it is fancy because it's caramel.
Well, I say that because I normally say caramel and everybody's like, what the hell's caramel? What's caramel?
We are from the hood.
Caramel.
And we say caramel.
No, wrong. That's not how that works. It's actually based off where you live, like regionally.
Yeah, regionally grew up in the hood.
I didn't.
That's why you said caramel.
No, I don't actually say caramel. I say caramel on here because if I don't, people are like, it's not caramel. Caramel is not. Where's the C-A-R-A? Where's the other A when you say it? Caramel is not spelled C-A-R-M-E-L. It's C-A-R-A-M-E-L. And it becomes a big fucking thing. So I try to be what everybody else says, which is caramel. That's how it works.
Well, I'm sticking with caramel.
That's fine. You can do you. I'll do me. That's how we do things. So, that's where we're at.
And that's the banter we were talking about. So
it's not banter. It's just reality.
Yeah.
Like I don't say caramel all the time, but when I'm trying to talk to somebody about something that is a caramel flavor, I swear to you 90% of the time when I say caramel, people will repeat back to me. Like if I'm like, oh, I want a caramel frappuccino, they're like, oh, you want a caramel frappuccino? And I'm like, yeah.
That's
so
right.
you already know.
No, caramel.
You already know that it's just not the way that people say.
It's like soda and pop. Depends on where
Again,
you live.
regional.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Depend on where you lived. Some people even say Coke for everything.
My mom used to say Coke.
Yeah. Like
I grew up with my mom saying Coke for everything.
Right.
And then I grew up saying soda. I say soda for everything. Pop was never something that I always think.
I've definitely heard that on the East Coast.
My mom was Midwest and she like everything. I mean, a Sprite was a Coke, a Coca-Cola was a Coke. Anything was Coke. If it was a soda, it was a Coke. I grew up saying soda. However, a lot of the people I went to school with said pop. Not East Coast. In Washington, where I grew up, most of my friends would say pop.
Yeah.
And I always thought it was weird, but they always attributed it to the fact that I was from California. They're like, well, Californians say soda. I don't fucking know if they do. That's just what I said.
Well, then you go old school and you could say soda pop.
Yeah, some people do say soda pop. So, I mean, it's like the same, same.
I don't know. Like,
thing.
Usually I'll say whatever the brand is. Do you want a Pepsi? Do you want a Dr. Pepper?
Yeah, not me. I pretty much always say soda. And I pretty much always say soda. Unless I'm asking you specifically, do you want a Diet Coke?
Right.
Because I need to know what
like,
you want.
grab some soda from the store.
I'll say soda.
Right?
I'll say soda.
If it's in general, but if it's like specific, it's not like, do you want a soda? Well, which one? Right.
Yeah.
So I'd rather just list them off.
Yeah. I get it.
So that's the debate. Put it in our chat. Leave us a message. What do you say? Soda, pop, Coke. Is there something else you say?
Soda pop.
Or soda pop. What do you say? Let us know. All right.
Okay. Well, again, we're not actually here to talk about soda pop or soda pop.
Or Coke.
We're here to talk about serial killers. Well, a serial killer. So we'll get into who we're talking about. We are talking about a man named Andre Crawford. Now, Andre Crawford has 11 victims. His location of murders were Chicago, Illinois. His murder dates were 1993 to 1999. His method of murder was strangulation. And his characteristic of his murders were rape and necrophilia. So Andre was born March 20th, 1962 in Chicago, Illinois. His father left the family shortly after he was born, and it is said that his mother was extremely neglectful to the point where she basically left him alone all the time with his sister. Like, she would not stay at home. She would just leave the kids by themselves, did not take care of them. And she does end up being brought up on charges of neglect due to the fact that she's leaving her children.
Older sister, younger sister, do we know?
I actually don't know, but I'm pretty sure it's his younger sister. But the thing is, Andre was found in his home by himself, maybe with his sister. And that is what brought the charges on, because it was like however old he was far too young to be left by himself. So they end up taking him and his sister and they put them into a foster care system, into into the foster care system, and they put them into a foster care or a foster family. This foster family already has 4 other children in the family. Now, I don't know if there are 4 other foster care children or if they're like the family, but they get put into a household, basically. Now, while they're living in this home, Andre has come out more recently and said that he was abused sexually and physically. He was beat, and he claims to have been sexually abused by other members of that foster family. Now, when he was a teenager, he also tried to run away from home and look for his biological mother's family members. So he left home. And when I say home, I think by that time he had been adopted, because him and his sister do end up getting adopted. And I think when he ran away from home as a teenager, he had been already adopted, but he was looking for his biological mother's family members. Now,
so I think there needs to be, because as you said this, it got my brain kind of spinning. I think there needs to be better rules when it comes to people fostering children, right? And I'm sure there's a ton of great foster parents out there and stuff like that, but it just seems like you hear it on the news, you read about it, we do podcasts about it, where people are put in really shitty situations where they're being abused, neglected, people are using it just for the check, to get paid. Like, I don't know what the criteria is or how people get passed, but like, to me, one of the things should be, you shouldn't be dependent on the money, right? You should be able to provide a great, stable lifestyle for these children who are already in a bad situation. Yeah, I don't know. We need to get better at that, in my opinion.
My honest opinion is the foster care system is broken because there's not enough people to regulate it.
Right.
So there's not enough social workers that can go out there and regulate it. The other part of this is, I know you have a certain criteria, like you have to have a background check, and there's all kinds of things you do have to do to become a foster parent. You have to be approved. But I think what happens is, once you pass all their criteria, once you start getting the checks that help with your foster child, people have turned foster care into their job. Like, I personally have seen foster care families where they have enough space, because you have to have a certain amount of, like, I think you have to prove that you can house, I think, 2 children per room, right? So if you want to have 4 foster kids, you have to have 2 bedrooms that will fit 2 beds in each room. And as long as you can prove that you can do that, they'll give you 4 foster kids, and then they give you money for each foster kid. And I have seen and heard and read stories of people who have fostered children. And what bugs me the most is when they turn 18, the checks stop coming because they're no longer part of the child foster care system. They get kicked out of their foster home. My honest opinion, if I was a foster parent, that child is part of my family forever. Forever.
Yep.
So I don't care about the money. Like, the whole point is, I don't know what the right fix is, because it's just like, I also know that there's a shortage of foster care families as well.
Sure. There's way more kids than there are
right.
families.
So
I'm
it's like
sure
you hear about the foster care system being an atrocious place. And I do agree. I think there's probably more good foster care families than there are bad. But in my opinion,
it takes one bag of egg to ruin the bunch.
When you're dealing with something like foster care, there should not be one bad egg at all.
Right.
Because these are children.
Like, and there may be things in place, but like you said, there's not enough social workers to follow up with it. So, like, for the whole malnutrition thing or whatever, like every 3 to 6 months, they need to go to a doctor.
They do, but they do. They do. They have requirements.
How are these kids getting down to like bone thin?
Well, I saw one story where a girl was locked in a cage. Okay. So she was locked in a cage for like a year and a half or something. And during that time, the foster care people, or not the social workers, the social care workers come like every 6 months or whatever to check. Well, when they would schedule the visits,
they call and schedule.
Correct. And they would make sure that everything looks fine. And by that time, you have been able to basically mentally manipulate this child to say nothing. And as far as doctors' visits and stuff, I mean, it's very easy to go to a doctor. And when a doctor was like, whoa, they're really underweight, as the foster parent, you can be like, I know, I feed them all the time, but they just like run so much. I really don't know what to do. And then the doctors are going to typically be like, yeah, maybe we need to give them this or that to, whatever. Like it is, if you are good enough at manipulating the foster care system to give you checks to take care of kids, you're good enough to manipulate your lies to the doctors and the healthcare people about why the child looks or acts the way they do. So that's foster care, orphanages, all those things. There are bad sides to them. And I do not understand how in the world, especially in today's day and age, how we still have space for bad foster care families and bad orphanage type situations, because I don't understand that. There should be so many, like you said, rules, regulations that hone it in. I don't have the solution, but I most definitely don't know. I don't know. And for me personally, Jay and I've talked about fostering because our children are adults. And we had talked about, like, would we foster? I would foster. I would have no
100%.
problem. I would have no problem fostering kids. But I also know that right now, like, our son still lives with us. He's in college. And so it's like, if I was going to foster anybody, I'd probably wait till my son moved out, because it also is hard for a foster child to come into an established family. That's hard. That's a hard situation to put them into. And, I've raised 2 children from babies to adults, and I'm passionate about helping kids, especially kids who need to be steered in a good direction. And I would have no problem doing that. However, I do also know, because I worked with a woman who actually was a foster parent, there's a really dark side to foster parenting, because a lot of these kids have a lot of problems, mental health problems, abuse problems. And if you can't navigate how to help them, it doesn't necessarily always end well for the foster parents either. Correct. So it's like it takes a very special person to be a social worker and a very special person to be a foster parent, which is why it bothers me so much that these foster parents that aren't good people are allowed to abuse children. But I am going to point out that is not giving Andre an excuse for being a serial killer.
Absolutely not. It's just something that keeps being brought up.
And if you notice, a lot of serial killers, that is, they do. If they go into the foster care system or an orphanage, like 90% of the time, they claim abuse. So I'm just...
Yeah, and we're not saying everybody who's in that system becomes a serial killer either.
No.
It's
how you navigate through
correlation.
It. Correct.
Doesn't equal causation.
Correct. That's the most important thing everybody needs to understand, is that correlation does not equal causation. If you don't know what that means, look it up, because it's very important for our daily lives.
Now, back to our story.
So again, he runs away when he's a teenager, looking for his biological mother's family members, and he does find them. And they apparently, as he hangs out with them, he says that they went on to sexually abuse him as well. Now, he is then also said that he was forced into prostitution by his biological mother's family as well. I will note here, though, those claims that he is having have never been proven to be true. And his sister, his adoptive parents, and all of the family members that he's had contact with say none of that is true. And I believe his sister also is saying that there was no abuse in the foster home either. So whether or not it's true or not, I'm not going to speculate, because we always talk about believe the victims. You hear it a lot with women who are abused by their husbands, believe the women. I feel like the same would apply to anybody who's a victim. However, in this scenario, spoiler alert, his lawyers tried to use abuse to change his sentencing. So there is that part where you're like, or did he come up with the abuse story so that he could try to avoid the death penalty, right? So at some point, again, he is adopted, and his sister is adopted with him. And his adoptive parents had said that he had actually started to use drugs in the mid-70s. Remember, he was born in 62. So mid-70s, I'm thinking like 75. He's like 13 years old probably. That's not unheard of. I mean, I definitely went to middle school with people who were doing drugs and drinking, okay. Now, he also said that Andre dropped out of school at the age of 17. And the claim of the reason he dropped out of high school was because he was so addicted to drugs that he just couldn't do school anymore. Now, that's coming from the adoptive parents, or the adoptive father. Now, in the early 1980s, Andre does enlist in the Army and later goes on to enlist in the Navy. However, while he's in the military, he does continue to use drugs during that time, and he would constantly be reprimanded for being unable to perform his duties to the point where he eventually gets dishonorably discharged from the military. And if you don't understand what that means, again, you can be discharged for many reasons. The one you don't want is dishonorably discharged. And I believe, I'm not a military person, but I believe if you're dishonorably discharged, you can't get any military benefits.
You don't get any of the benefits.
But if you're like medically discharged or honorably discharged to where you're kicked out for a reason, but it's like a reason that you couldn't control necessarily, you can still rake in some of the benefits, but dishonorably cuts all that off. So after this, Andre returns to Chicago, and he pretty much lives a really, really rough life at this point. He focuses most of his life on drinking and drug usage, and he doesn't have a very easy time keeping a job. So he changes his career several different times. Most of the jobs that he did acquire were low-skilled labor jobs. And he also struggled keeping a house, like staying in a house. And so he most of the time would live in abandoned buildings and houses. He would also frequent homeless shelters, and then sometimes he would stay with friends, but he would just kind of, what do you call it? Nomadic, transient lifestyle where he didn't have a specific place. I'm assuming he just stayed in abandoned areas or homeless shelters near where his job was. And when he got fired or left that job, he'd move to somewhere that was where else. During Andre's free time, so when he wasn't working or when he was just kind of living his life, he would actually stay in the red light district. And he would basically hang out with pimps and prostitutes all the time, just hanging out. I don't know what else there was part of that, but do what you will with that information. Now, most people who knew Andre had nothing but positive things to say about him. Like literally pretty much anybody who knew him during his life was like, no, he was a good guy. Like he was nice. Like they didn't have he didn't creep anybody out. He wasn't sketchy. Like nobody had bad vibes from him. He was just a guy. It's weird to me that that's what people's opinions of him were, because between March of 1993 and November of 1999, he was repeatedly arrested on drug charges and theft charges. So in my mind, I'm like, listen, I don't care about the drug thing, but if you're stealing, I don't consider you a nice person. I don't consider you a good person if you're stealing all the time and you're getting caught stealing all the time.
But talking to somebody, you can be like, oh, he was not charismatic, but like, yeah, he wasn't mean to people,
Yeah, true.
But
true.
He was a little bit of a klepto.
So May 3rd, 1995, he is arrested for assault and rape, and he spent over a year in Cook County Jail waiting for the investigation to finish. So he is literally arrested on these assault and rape charge. So he's waiting for them to finish up the investigation to basically charge him. But I'm assuming he didn't have bail money, so they just have him sitting in this jail. However, the charges are ultimately dropped against him, and he's released. And it's because the victim that originally came forward ends up refusing to cooperate with the investigators, and her testimony would have been questioned anyways because she was a heavy drug user. And so we all know how that goes, that you're not a reliable witness, even though she's the victim.
Right.
So his charges get dropped. Now, in 1999, he is also found guilty of some more types of charges. However, he is actually given a suspended sentence with probation. And so he he was arrested multiple times. I don't think he spent a ton of time in jail. I think every time it was kind of like a probation type thing, which again, I don't understand, because if you've been arrested once on a sexual assault charge and then you get arrested again for a sexual assault charge, like I feel like that's about the time you start taking this shit seriously. Now, Andre would choose women that were sex workers or drug addicts. Those were his victims.
Yeah. And then the cops wouldn't take it.
No.
Seriously.
Actually, that is not, that actually did not happen in this case.
Good.
However, something else does happen in this case that irks the motherfuck out of me. But anyways, specifically, he would target women in the Englewood neighborhood or the back of the yards neighborhood. I'm not from the Chicago area, so I have no idea where those are, but those are the two neighborhoods he would frequent. I think Englewood is the one that he focused mostly on. His victims were oftentimes black women. And again, they were either prostitutes or drug addicts or both. He would lure them into an abandoned building or like an abandoned home. And he would promise to either give them drugs or exchange sex for money or whatever would be something to get them to follow him. And then once they're alone in this abandoned building, he would attack them. And then he would sexually assault them. Then he would strangle or bludgeon them to death. And then he would actually leave the bodies at the crime scene. So he would kill them, leave, and then he would come back a few days later and perform sexual acts on the bodies as well, engaging in necrophilia. So this is how this is going to work. I do have a list of his victims. I have their names. However, I also have a list of the dates and when they were found, but I don't have the name of each woman when they were found. So I'm going to go through and tell you the each date, like the dates of the murders, when they were found. Some of them might have a little bit of information, like where they were found. And then after I do that, I'll tell you all of their names, but I can't tell you which one is which.
Yeah.
So on September 21st, 1993, there's a 37-year-old woman who is found murdered in a vacant factory lot, and she had suffered blunt force trauma to her head. Then on December 21st, 1994, a 21-year-old woman is found murdered. Her body is also discovered in an abandoned building. On April 3rd, 1995, so remember, he got arrested in May. So you got to remember this. He got arrested in May of 1995 and was in jail for a year, a little over a year, while they were waiting to investigate. So remember that. So April 3rd, 1995, the body of a 36-year-old woman is found in an empty house. Then on July 23rd, 1997, so there's a gap there. There is a body of a 27-year-old woman that is found in a closet of an abandoned house. Then on December 27th of 1997, a 42-year-old woman is assaulted at knife point. This man approaches her from behind while she's walking. He puts a knife to her head, drags her into an abandoned building. She is beaten and she is raped and she is left to die. She does survive.
Good on you.
June of 1998, the body of a 31-year-old woman is found in an abandoned building. And if you'll notice now, you're going to start seeing them closer and closer together, which leads me to kind of believe that there's a chance that there's more victims out there that we just don't know of. August 13th, 1998. So this is literally 2 months later. The body of a 44-year-old woman is found in the kitchen of an abandoned home, and her clothes were found in the nearby alley. Also on August 13th, 1998, a real estate agent finds a decomposed body. This is a 32-year-old woman, and she is lying on the floor in an attic at a home that the real estate agent was going to be showing. Could you fucking imagine?
No.
But this body was decomposing, so it wasn't a freshly killed woman. I don't know how. I mean, it's August. I'm sure it's hot as fuck, so probably, Then on December 8th, 1998, the body of a 35-year-old woman is found in an abandoned building. Now, she has one pant leg around her ankle. The other pant leg is completely off. She had marks on her neck from a rope. She had injuries to her face, and the cause of death was strangulation with the rope. Then on February 2nd, 1999, the body of a 35-year-old woman is found, and it is unclear if she was found on the street or if she was found in an abandoned building on the street. Because the thing I did not put in here is it gave me the address to all of the places. So every one of these women who was found, I have the address to every single one of them. I wasn't going to share that information.
Yeah.
Number one, if you want to know it, just go look it up. Number two, I don't know what's currently in those neighborhoods. I don't know if they're good neighborhoods, bad neighborhoods. I don't know if they are businesses. And the last thing I would want is to share that and then have a bunch of people start showing up to be like, this is where a body was found. Like, that's fucking creepy.
Yeah.
So I kept that information out. Then on April 21st, 1999, the body of a 44-year-old woman is found in a vacant house. And then on June 20th, 1999, the body of a 41-year-old woman is found in the attic of an empty building. So this is what's been happening since 1993. Bodies are showing up abandoned. Now, the reason that I'm saying they didn't just go, oh, they're just prostitutes, is none of these women looked like they had a drug overdose. Because that's normally what they do. They normally are like, well, they OD'd. No, all of them were strangled, and most of them were beaten and strangled. So you already know they were murdered. You can tell as the minute you walk in to these buildings to where this body is that this person was murdered. Never mind the fact that a lot of them were raped and probably didn't have their clothes on. So you know all around. However, they don't know who's doing this. Okay, they don't know, but they didn't just go, just another prostitute. That wasn't how it was for this case. DNA evidence was found on every single one of the victims too. And they did run the DNA in CODIS and there was no matches. So again, that's how I'm saying, like, they took it serious with the very first murder in 1993, which I don't think they could run DNA quite at that time, but they were able to find DNA on every single one of the bodies. So the fact that they had that information tells you that they were at least semi taking it seriously. So the names of his victims are Patricia Dunn, Rhonda King, Angel Shatine, Shaquanta Langley, Sonia Brandon, Nicole Townsend, Cheryl Cross, Tommy Dennis, Cheryl Johnson, Constance Bailey, and Evandre Harris. Those are the women who died. And then Claudia Robinson is his only survivor. She's the one who survived. So on January 28th of 2000, Andre is actually arrested after DNA. So somehow they got his DNA. I have no idea. I fucking searched high and low trying to figure out where they got his DNA from. I don't know if they surveilled him, if they just randomly were. I have no idea how they got his DNA. However, they got his DNA somehow, and it linked him to 7 of these murdered women. So he is arrested January 28th of 2000 after they got the DNA. Then they take him in, they start talking to him about what the hell happened. And during his interrogations, he actually admits to killing another 3 women. And he admits to also several other attacks of women that he raped but didn't kill. So Andre is then charged with 11 counts of murder. He is charged with 9 counts of rape and 1 count of attempted murder. And I don't know if it's 11 counts of murder and the 9 counts of rape are 9 other women, or if it's the 9 of the 11 that he murdered. I know the attempted murder is the woman who survived, but it did say in the research that when he admitted to doing these other sexual assaults, women came forward and said, yes, that's the man who assaulted me. So they had people who were able to come forward.
The number could be a lot higher.
Right. Now, his attorneys argued that the death penalty should not be something that would be considered because he was the product of sexual abuse. And y'all know what we say on this show.
Mm-hmm.
We don't use mental health or past abuses, I guess we could say, as an excuse for bad behavior. It can explain, but it cannot excuse. And this is one of those scenarios where in my brain, this is a good example. So his attorneys are trying to excuse away the fact that he is a serial killer and rapist because he was sexually abused.
No, it's like, yes, this is the reason why he did it.
Right.
And now he should be held accountable.
So they're saying, hey, we're asking you not to put him to death, even though we know that he is not a good person. But hey, he was sexually abused. He said he was sexually abused as a child. So therefore, which is the craziest thing to me, because I'm like, I would bet everything I have that there are more sex abuse victims in our world than there are serial killers from sex abuse victims, right? Like, not every person who is abused as a child, sexually, physically, emotionally, mentally, is going to grow up to be a serial killer. I'd actually venture to guess that majority of them do not grow up to be serial killers. So therefore, we can't excuse that behavior away, right? We can't. Now, we can say, hey, you know what? Let me explain to you why he may have done these things. And then you take that into account when you're doing your sentencing. And if you feel that it's appropriate to put a man to death who went through abuse, that's on you. So, but they're not trying to say that. They're saying, well, he should not be put to death because he was a sex abuse victim. I don't buy that. Now, for myself, I am not really, I like go back and forth on the death penalty. And I will be very honest with you in this case, and you'll find out in the shots, but I think he should be put to death. I do. I don't normally feel that way about most people, but you'll find out why. So that was their thing. They were arguing that. So after the trial ends and they go into jury deliberations, they have 10 hours 10 hours of deliberation, which isn't that long. I mean, genuinely not that long. They did it like, I read it was split between 2 days. Like they went in the evening, stopped at like 5:45, and then reconvened the next day, came up with their idea. So they actually find him guilty of all the murders and all the counts and everything. So he's 100% guilty. However, they are not able to reach a unanimous decision on the death penalty. Now, when it comes to the death penalty being handed out, it has to be unanimous. You cannot have, it can't be like, oh, the majority. It has to be unanimous. In this jury, so if anybody doesn't know, there are typically 12 jurors, okay? One person refused the death penalty. So one person stopped him from dying. 11 said yes, 1 said no. And I actually was reading through some court documentation of when they were interviewing the jurors. I'm going to be honest with you. I put this on the prosecuting attorneys because their jury selection process. They interviewed a couple of different jurors, and one of them that they interviewed literally told them, no, I don't think I could ever put somebody to death.
And they said, give me that person.
So the fact that they kept that person, because the prosecuting attorney could have put up a bigger fight to get him kicked off the jury. I'm sure the defense wanted to keep him, obviously, because they want to make sure that he doesn't get put to death. But there was another juror that he said, well, I'm a Christian. I don't really believe in the death penalty. And they said, okay, so are you saying that there is nothing anybody could ever do that would give them the death penalty? And he said, no, I can't say that, but I'm saying that I would have to have a very good reason to put somebody to death. Okay, that I could see that guy staying. They actually had a juror who said, I could not put somebody to death. And they said, so you're saying nobody in the world deserves death? And he said, it's not my call to make. And that guy got to stay on the jury. So you knew, prosecuting attorneys, that you were not getting the death penalty by keeping that guy on there. So regardless, so he did not get the death penalty. So instead, he is sentenced to life in prison without parole. So that is where Andre is at this moment. He is in jail forever till he dies.
Not 25 to life. You got life.
Life without parole.
Without parole.
So he should never get out, which is good. If you can't get death, but I'm sure that doesn't answer your question as to why I think he deserves death. Because I
figured that would be in the shots.
It is in the shots.
Yee-hoo.
So let's get into the shots. Number 1, during the years that Andre was killing, this is the part that pisses me off.
Uh-oh.
He had been arrested multiple times. We talked about this, right? From 93 to 99, he was arrested multiple times. However, each one of those times, his DNA was never taken. Okay? If they would have taken his DNA at any one of those times, most likely these women, most of them, would still be alive. As a matter of fact, let's just start with this one. How about the fact that he was arrested March 1993? March of 1993. His first murder was May of 1993. So he had not even killed anybody yet. Okay? For a felony theft. Had they required DNA be taken for felons, because a lot of the states do now. I know in Washington, if you are a felon, you automatically give your DNA. I am a very heavy proponent of this. I honestly think that if you go to jail, you should have your DNA taken, period. Mm-hmm. I think that it makes it to where that's my personal thing. I know a lot of people are like, I don't want my fucking DNA in the system. Well, then don't break the law. Don't break the law and you don't have to worry about it. But also, I've said this a million times, I'd willingly give my DNA because I don't do anything wrong. So I'll put my DNA on the fucking in CODIS too, even though I'm not a prisoner. I'll put it in CODIS, but I think anybody who goes into prison should be, and I'm not saying, oh, you're arrested for drunk driving. I'm saying if you go to trial and you go to prison, I'm not talking about jail. I'm not talking about county ass jail. I'm talking about prison. If you go to prison, you should have your DNA taken. Period. DNA swabs. This is not the first time that we have seen serial killers be able to continue to kill because their DNA was not taken or processed. So had they taken his DNA in 1993, after the first woman was killed, they would have caught him. They would have caught him because there was DNA on her. Okay? And so they would have caught him. Now, I can't say they would have caught him right away because I don't know what the DNA technology was back in 1993. I don't know if it was strong enough, but they would have been able to match them some way, right? So there's that. Oh, I lied. His first murder was not even till September. My bad. It wasn't even May. It was September of 1993. If that one doesn't strike you, how about the fact that he was arrested again in May of 1995? Okay, so in May of 1995, and we know this because we talked about it. He stayed in jail for a year waiting for them to finish up their fucking thing. But the thing that gets me out this one is he was arrested for another felony, and this felony was sexual abuse. Criminal sexual abuse. Why was no DNA taken in that form? Because now you're talking about somebody who literally is being accused of criminally sexually abusing somebody. Rape and assault. And you did not take his DNA. And they could have. They had the capability to do it. And so, again, they did not take his DNA. And that blows my mind because I'm like, if anything, you should be taking the DNA of people who are accused of sexual assault, rape, whatever. Something.
Well, and I'm curious. I'm sure they do it now. I'm curious when those became like a thing.
In Washington, I want to say this was passed in like 2008 is when they made it to where felons have to give DNA now. But I'm just saying these are missed opportunities. These are times where, again, we're talking May of 1995. He killed so many women after May of 1995. Had they taken DNA from him at all, those women would be alive today. Now, Andre, after his arrest, he showed no remorse. And actually, he said that he would not stop killing because it had become like an addiction to him. So that's point number one as to why I think he should have had the death penalty. Because when you have somebody who genuinely looks you in your face and says, yeah, I don't feel bad about killing these women, and also I'll continue to kill, that is my time to say, well, see, then you probably shouldn't be on this earth. Because if you ever escape, or if you ever, for some, by God of grace, get parole, you're going to go out and kill somebody again.
Yeah.
That's who the death penalty should be reserved for.
I wonder if they ask him now if he still feels the same way.
I would venture to guess yes. Because my thought is if he really doesn't care, there's a good chance he's just a sociopath. And to be honest with you, not all sociopaths are bad, but if you're a sociopath who is killing people and blatantly saying that you would kill again and that you would continue to kill, you're dangerous. You are a danger to society. Now, it was also discovered that Andre had been involved in the police surveillance to catch the serial killer. I mean, like literally, he helped surveil people to help catch the serial killer that they had been looking for.
Well, they say a lot of times they interject themselves into the investigation.
He even did things like handing out flyers and standing on the corner and like showing pictures. Like he did all kinds of things.
He's like, please help, look for me.
He volunteered. I think he was doing it because he wanted to see how close they were to catching him, to be honest with you. So that's point number 2 as to why I think that he should have gotten the death penalty, because he was not the kind of person that I would excuse the death penalty from, as in he didn't understand what he was doing was not okay. He didn't have, like, maybe he had a mental health issue that made it to where he couldn't understand right from wrong. No, he knew what he did was wrong. He didn't care what he did was wrong. And then he also impeded and inserted himself in the investigation, pretended to help to look for the serial killer that he knew goddamn well was him. These are all calculated things to me. Again, somebody who said that he would not stop killing probably doesn't deserve a space on this earth very long. Now, there was a neighbor who supposedly had come up and said that Andre had supposedly said to him, they were, again, this is hearsay, had supposedly said to him that he had seen what he called a streetwalker. I'm assuming a prostitute.
Yeah.
And he said that when Andre would see these prostitutes or streetwalkers, he would say things like, they need to get a job and do something with their lives, as if he didn't like them. And then police also had received a tip while they were looking for this serial killer that said somebody supposedly had overheard a man, and I don't think at the time they knew it was Andre, but they said they supposedly overheard a man talking about the murders while he was on the bus. And he had said, and I quote, "Drug-addicted sex workers need to be strangled and have their heads beaten in." My thought is, if that was the tip you got, Why didn't you get that person to come in and give you a sketch?
Yeah.
And then maybe you could compare it and maybe you'd see like, oh my God, the guy handing out the flyers looks kind of like this guy. Let's get his DNA. Okay, so the sister of one of his victims, after his sentence was read, had this to say, and I quote, "It only takes 2 killings to be eligible for death. It was 11. What kind of justice is that?" Another one said, "I saw the smile on his face and it was a very sinister smile." Okay, so that's point number 3. That's another reason that I do not think that Andre should have been allowed to not have death penalty, because if he said when he was told that he was not going to be having the death penalty, at first he, from what I saw, was emotionless, but he also smiled about it. Again, I just am like, see, again, just all these things that just kind of stack up. Then his only surviving victim also spoke, and she said, and I quote, "What the justice did today tells every criminal they can kill and live." And to be fair, I'm telling you these quotes because I normally I can see how, life sentence is just as good as death penalty. But what I'm trying to show you is that nobody was happy. Like literally nobody was happy with the sentence other than probably Andre himself, and his attorneys. And to know it was one singular person stopped it is probably very frustrating. Because also Andre himself, and this is reason number 4, the final reason why I'm like, yeah, this guy deserved the death penalty. He said, and I quote, "I'm glad I got caught. I was like a shark in a pool." He doesn't care.
Right.
He doesn't care that he killed these women. He doesn't care that he raped these women. He doesn't care that he did any of these things.
And he was more than happy to keep on
and
going.
And he would have kept on going. And he inserted himself into the investigation to see what was going on. So again, all these things line up and I'm like, yeah, see, that is the kind of person that the death penalty is typically reserved for. Somebody that if they ever get out, they will reoffend and their crimes are atrocious, horrific, and deserve to be penalized by death. And he falls into that category 150%. So that is the story of Andre Crawford. If you like the things that you hear, that always sounds stupid when I say it, 'cause somebody likes to hear it. If you're interested in the things that we talk about, and if you like hearing stories about serial killers and their life and my personal view on them and Jay's personal view on them, then keep following us. If you're not following us, make sure you do. And if you are following us and you know somebody that you think might like our vibe, make sure you share us with them, because we do appreciate it. We appreciate all the love and the shares and the things. So other than that, I don't really have anything else to say other than thank you once again for listening to us tell you the story of Andre Crawford, the man who murdered 11 women, but probably could have been stopped had they just taken his DNA.
That damn Denna.
Until next week, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Remember to lock your doors and bar your windows. Until next time.